Noah, it's absolutely stunning. It's deeply disturbing. I've been talking to my Jewish friends in New York all week, and they are getting similar warnings. My one friend kept her daughter home from school today because she was so scared. She was too afraid to go into her public school. When her other son got to a private school, it's not a Jewish school. It's, there's a high Jewish population in New York, so there's a fair amount of Jewish kids there. He arrived to armed security guards all over the place and guard dogs. That's how he had to enter his school today because of the quote day of jihad, which has already taken lives in Paris, in Beijing, and unfortunately, I'm sure we're not done. What do you put it in perspective for us?
It's been profoundly heartening, I will say, to see some otherwise reliable progressive voices, good liberals, honest Democrats, watch the scales fall from their eyes as they see their compatriots sympathize with the slaughter of Israeli citizens, the murder of senior citizens, the immolation of whole families, people sheltering their children in their arms, covered in the blood of their children, begging for the lives of their remaining young. And I hope that it lasts. I don't suspect it will. There is a impulse on the left, which has been documented now by good Democratic Jews over the course of the last decade, which imparts to their co-partisans the kind of generosity of spirit they have, that they see themselves and everyone else. They perceive themselves to be sophisticates, to be capable of comprehending the nuance of the situation, to be beyond these Manichaean notions of good and evil, gauche. But they're not. And every time they convince themselves of this, they are ultimately betrayed by the people who are supposedly on their side, because the real evil, the profound evil, is in us. It is in the West. It is in Israel. It is in the Jews. This isn't about Israel. It hasn't been about the borders of Israel, the status of Jerusalem, the existence of the Jewish state for a very long time. It's the Jews who are being targeted in Western European countries, in New York City. Not about Israel. This was an attack on Jews for being Jews. And there are people who think that's appropriate. That makes sense. Their lives are not as valuable as our own. A lot of Democrats right now are confronting these sentiments and saying, this is not me, and I don't accept that. I don't condone that. But when the partisan boundary lines reform around this contest, around this conflict, and it's the right that's on one side and the left that's on another, negative partisanship will kick back in, and all these revelations of this week will again be compartmentalized and subordinated to the need to rally around the team. I hope it doesn't happen. But
I hope it doesn't too.
I think it will.
Better than anybody, we've talked about your amazing book, The New Puritans, many times. And I've referenced it many times when you haven't been here, because I have yet to read something that did a better job of pointing out just the absurdity of what upsets the woke cancel culturers who have taken over our college campuses. I mean, could you, as the man who literally wrote the book, put in perspective, like the minor grievances that these same people who are now defending mass murder in Israel managed to get themselves worked up into a lather over about 2 minutes ago?
Yes, so that was a more satirical look at the social justice movement. My first book was a much darker look at the social justice movement, Unjust and the Unmaking of America. And one of the features one of the intellectual fads that I dissect in that book is this phenomenon of intersectionality. Intersectionality is sort of a useful thought experiment. It compels you to see the world in a series of racialist, bigoted stereotypes in order to deconstruct those stereotypes, ostensibly. But the practical effect of this ideology and marinating in it is to impart to you a worldview that is predicated on bigotries. It makes you see the world in a series of stereotypes to flatten individuals, to make them into binaries. And it's very chauvinistic. It views the world in a very American sort of understanding of the world. And in the American understanding of stereotypes, of bigotries, Jews are not an oppressed people. They control the media. They are in high finance. They occupy the commanding heights of entertainment and of television. They're not oppressed. They are the oppressors. This is not a condition that exists anywhere else on the planet Earth, save perhaps Israel. It's testament to the United States and to the promise that Washington made, George Washington, in 1790, in his address to the congregation of Rhode Island, that this country countenances no bigotry, and it is home to the Israelites, as it is to all the world's stateless peoples, all its persecuted peoples, all its oppressed peoples. It is a testament to this country where Jews occupy the positions that they do in the United States. But in an intersexual point of view, they have ill-begotten gains on their hands, which is illustrative of the status that they occupy, and it needs to be addressed. They need to be cut down a peg. So on the hierarchical ladder of intersectionality, Jews are at the very, very bottom, and it justifies this sorts of prejudices, and it justifies this sort of violence. It is in our institutions, as Ayan said. It is in our universities. It is in our boardrooms. It is in politics, in the highest offices in Washington, D.C. And it is a noxious, toxic philosophy that it produces this kind of bloodshed on a smaller scale in the United States, on a profoundly larger scale in Israel and elsewhere in the Western world. But it won't stop there if we don't stop it.
I can't get over the fact that when we first launched this show, we just had Ayan on. She was, I think, episode 9. She was one of the first. One of the other stories that we covered very early on was what happened to Brett Weinstein at Evergreen College in Washington State, where he lost his job ultimately because the Black students on campus wanted to do a sick out for a day. They had been doing it where the Black students didn't show up on a certain day of the year to sort of show people this is what life would be like without us. It was voluntary on their part. Okay, whatever. But then this one year they said, no, we're coming and we want everyone who's not Black not to come. All the white people need to stay home. And Brett Weinstein, then a professor there, said, I'm not sure that's I don't think you can sort of try to mandate to the whites that they not come to the college education they're paying for. That might be a bridge too far. They stormed his office, the office of the dean. I feel dehumanized. This college is racist. He's a racist. How dare you? How could you let this happen? And the university sided with them. Now, head a little further east to University of Wisconsin. And you see exactly the opposite. You see, I think that's where this girl who we opened the show with was crying, saying, how can you allow this? What do you look at this. These are people who are celebrating what Hamas did. It was Washington. Okay, it wasn't even that far away. All right, Washington, same state. The girl's crying, saying that they want my people dead. They want to kill us. How can this be allowed? I realize we allow protests in America, but you could much more closely see this young woman's point, right, and get behind her, which no administration is doing, than you could those Evergreen students. And it's just been a 180.
Yeah, and it's incumbent on us to accept and allow this because we understand that is an American value, that the answer to the ills of free speech is more free speech. Mm-hmm. They don't see it that way. They are not. It's a misnomer to call them liberals. They are not liberals. They're fundamentally illiberal. They want to silence you through coercive mechanisms, through threats, intimidation. That is an illiberal impulse. It is the height now of enlightened sophistication on the left to see the kind of racial segregation that you described just now as sophisticated, as somehow it'll open your eyes to the world around you.
It's progress.
It's progress, right? It is antithetical to everything we understand to be progress. It is antithetical to every notion that undergirds the American civic compact. It is an assault on the civic compact. It is a war on American ideology. It is anti-American. We must regard it as such. It is not just another flavor, another intellectual fad that we're supposed to tolerate and compartmentalize and integrate into the social fabric. It is not. It is an attack on the fundaments of what hold this country together. The college administrators who tolerate this sort of thing have made a deal with the devil because it does not countenance them. It does not countenance their values. It seeks to supplant them and replace them with something much darker. And it's about time, as Ayan said, that we need to open our eyes to the nature of this threat because it is a threat.
Finding an honest doctor that is not following in the footsteps of big pharma can feel impossible. That's why millions of men and women have turned to one Texas doctor and the 7 reasons he said anyone over the age of 50 should be drinking this one thing. It's not milk or another calcium-rich drink. It is a unique protein that naturally declines with age and can significantly increase bone strength and soothe joint pain. He says it can minimize wrinkles and cellulite too. What? Not to mention enhance hair follicle thickness and even reverse nail damage. What is it? Users report results in as little as 2 weeks. Now, this guy's offering viewers up to 45% off his bone, joint, and ligament restoring formula at nativepath.online/MK. Nativepath.online/MK. It has thousands of 5-star reviews, over 4 million jars of this stuff sold. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, right? So try it for yourself. And then you can get your money back if you're not totally satisfied. Megyn Kelly viewers and listeners can visit nativepath.online/MK to get up to 45% off while supplies last. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.